What's up, y'all? I'm Will here with Schedulefly, and this is the Restaurant Owners Uncorked podcast, one of the highest rated hospitality podcasts in the world, brought to you by us at Schedulefly. We provide a very simple web-based restaurant employee scheduling software backed by legendary customer service. If you're on pencil and paper or Excel, or you're on some software with tons of bells and whistles and features you don't need or use, Schedulefly is the perfect place for you. Easy to use, point, click, and go, and we'll take great care of you. Schedulefly.com, free trial, check it out. All right, y'all, check it out. Stick is our sponsor, connectwithstick.com. This is an incredible text and marketing tool. So check this out. Engage your customers, drive foot traffic, and increase sales at your bar, your restaurant, your store with Stick. Your targeted messages reach your audience instantly, promoting special offers and events. Look, 98% of texts are seen within 3 minutes. So this thing is simple and it's effective and it works. Elevate your marketing strategy and watch your customer base grow with the most direct way to connect with your customers through text. Start today and see results on the very first text. Stick is a better way to connect with your customers and the easiest way to increase your sales. www.connectwithstick.com. And again, that's www.connectwithstick.com. Folks, this is an awesome sponsor. It's an awesome business. We at Schedulefly know them well. We know that the results are there. This is a highly effective tool, and it's run by a business run by great people. Check them out, connectwithstick.com. Hey, what's up, y'all? Tom Carr, Chief Marketing Officer, Chicken Salad Chick. What a cool brand. If you don't know about Chicken Salad Chick, you probably will. They started actually in Auburn, Alabama. They now have they just opened their 270th location. So growing, really from the Southeast out. And they've just built quite a brand. I've never met anybody that, that knows the brand, that doesn't have something positive to say about the food, about the experience. It's a great vibe. I know Chicken Salad Chick well. My family loves Chicken Salad Chick. And Tom's a super sharp dude. He's had a long career in a lot of different industries in marketing. And I learned a lot from him. I'm really trying to learn more about marketing and branding and awareness and community. And this was like a master class over an hour. So enjoy this episode. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Share this around. More episodes coming soon. See ya. Today is an excellent opportunity for our podcast to have somebody that represents a brand that I guarantee all of you have either heard of or will hear about. And if you've been there, you probably love it. I've never met anybody that doesn't. So, Tom, will you just take a second and introduce yourself?
Good morning. Thanks, Will. Thanks for having me on your show. I appreciate it. I love nothing more than to talk about Chicken Salad Chick. So I'm the CMO of the brand. Joined the company a little over 8 years ago at an exciting time, and certainly it's been a great opportunity over the last 8 years. So we are the nation's only fast casual restaurant, now really restaurant chain, serving chicken salad exclusively on our menu. In addition to chicken salads, we have over a dozen varieties of chicken salad, all made from scratch in every restaurant. In addition to fresh sides and soups, you can have it, as a sandwich chicken salad. People love it by the scoop in the South with crackers. And you know, the chicken salad is fantastic, but certainly hospitality is a big part of our brand from its very origin. Chicken Salad Chick was first started or founded in Auburn, Alabama, by Stacy and Kevin Brown. Stacy originally started making chicken salad in her home kitchen down in Auburn in the early 2000s, single mom at the time, and selling out of her home in Auburn. As things transpired, she ended up needing to turn it into a restaurant with her partner, then became her husband, Kevin Brown, and they opened the first restaurant in Auburn in 2008. And they already had something going with that. They created the original recipe, which she had started first, called Classic Carol, and then developed a recipe of, almost a dozen flavors of chicken salad, knowing that people, as fans of chicken salad, she knew that people like it also, straight up classic style. Some people loved apples and grapes in their chicken salad. And so that got them inspired to create a menu that has fruity and nutty flavors, savory, spicy, etc. And so we've continued to develop new flavors over the years since then. But from one restaurant in Auburn, we are now, and 2 days ago, we just opened our 270th restaurant open
Mm,
in the DC market. So excited, Falls Church, Virginia. Um, we are a
yeah.
mixture of franchise and company-owned restaurants, heavily franchised. A wonderful franchise group. This is their first restaurant. First of 8 restaurants they're gonna open in Northern Virginia. It's really the DMV, the Virginia suburbs of DC. So, things have been off to a great start.
Oh man. Okay. There's so many things I want to unpack, but before we get into chicken salad chick, I got a couple things I got to ask you. So I read your LinkedIn bio. All right. So you were early days, if I remember this correctly, you came up with the pizza concept at Little Caesars. That slogan.
I was part of the team, but yes, with the team that did. I actually worked for a creative director who I would say penned it. Pretty famous guy. He was behind Where's the Beef. That date me.
Oh my gosh.
I was alive then. I was out of college, not for Where's the Beef, but for Little Caesars Pizza. And exciting time, and we're talking a long time ago. Um, and that was kind of my start in the restaurant business, which I took a break from for a number of years, obviously, with some other
Mm-hmm.
things I did in my career before coming to Chicken Salad Chick. But again, a family-run business. When I joined, was working with them at the time, um, and really saw what marketing and advertising could do to fuel a brand, uh, and a great
Mm-hmm.
concept. Little Caesars at the time was a value brand in a very competitive Pizza Wars category with very much, you know,
Yeah.
Pizza Hut was actually on top. Domino's was the contender. Clearly, things have changed over the years. Uh, and then
Yeah.
Little Caesars going kind of from a regional brand and getting them to be the number 3 brand. And a lot of that fueled, obviously, the company was growing well, but fueled by marketing and advertising.
Yeah. Yeah. God. Okay. I should be writing all these questions down. I have so many questions about marketing and branding and brands that go up and down. So we'll get to that. The other thing I got to ask you about is because I'm completely obsessed with this story I heard Sarah Blakely tell about getting Spanx started. So I know you were at Spanx for a couple of years. And I heard her, I think it was the How I Built This podcast, but I love the hustle story, which is like, I'll get some details wrong, but I've always remembered this story. And I bet I listened to this podcast like a decade ago. What she did is, so first of all, I know there's a local fan. I'm in Charlotte, and there was a dude here in Charlotte that was actually the guy who finally like was
Give it
like,
a
okay, I'll
chance.
make these
But
things
yeah,
for you.
the original mill.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Here in Charlotte. And then I think it was Dallas. She got like, I don't know, Neiman Marcus or Macy, whatever. One of these,
Neiman's.
like,
Yep.
Neiman was like, okay, we'll put them in our stores. And there was like 8 stores or whatever it was. I always tell people, like, entrepreneurship, there's like the idea, there's the plan, but and there's the execution. But the execution a lot of times when you're getting started is like, I will do whatever it takes. Like, it's that extra. I'm going to roll up my sleeves. I'm going to hustle. I'm probably going to have to ask forgiveness over permission for certain things. I don't care. I got to do it. This is my baby. I got to make this work. So what does Sarah do? Well, they put them in the Neiman Marcus stores, and she does 2 things. One is she goes and she basically just takes it upon herself to just walk in like she owns a place and move the like where they were placed in like prime real estate. She's like, "Yeah, I'm coming in like I was told," just totally did that, which I loved. And the second thing she did is she called all of her friends and fans, like, go buy Spanx. Like, you can return them later if you need to, but like, she had to create momentum. And to me, that's like the difference between a great idea and a great plan and a business that takes off, and a great idea and a great plan that's like, yeah, it was a great idea, but it never worked. Well, sometimes you just got to go, and we could go on all days about, but I always thought that was a cool story. So I had to mention that when I saw that you worked there, because I was just like, I love that, and I love that it worked, and I'm like a huge fan, and I'm glad she's been so successful. No surprise, but like, if you're listening and you're an entrepreneur, like sometimes you got to do that, right? Like, and I'm sure she did a lot more of that, but I just always thought that was a cool story.
No, it is. I mean, Sarah Blakely is impressive. I think a couple of things that I think she continues to be amazing. One of her greatest assets, which um, well, there's a couple that come to mind. One is certainly persistence and just trying to, every roadblock she hit at the beginning, she really just stayed persistent. She came out of college and was in, I think in cold call sales as her first job. And so she kind of obviously was successful at that because she brought that ability and kind of just knowledge that she learned. I don't think she loved the cold calling on the sales side when she was at, I think it was technology or phones or something. But that persistence of it, when you get a no, figure out a way to get a yes, um, and go
Mm,
around the obstacles and don't lose sight of what you're trying to do. As an entrepreneur, I also think that she's an amazing storyteller. And having a story and having why you created it, she solved a problem for herself. But she knew it was solving a problem for her consumer, something that they needed or wanted. And really to this day, has always kept the company staying very focused on that, knowing who her consumer is, trying to figure out ways to solve problems for them that they have in the specific area that she's satisfying. And I'd say interesting, kind of correlation for me and why, kind of coming to Chicken Salad Chick when I did, there are some similarities with a business at the time, Chicken Salad Chick. Stacy Brown, who again co-founded it with her husband Kevin, um, she's an amazing storyteller. And
mm,
once she got it going, and she actually was a fan of chicken salad. And so when she was developing a chicken salad concept, originally selling door to door, she kind of knew what people wanted. She knew what she liked. And she was like, I'm going to make a product that I know people like because they're looking for this. And she sort of stayed on task and stayed focused in the chicken salad, even when they opened their first restaurant. Sometimes early first restaurant kind of entrepreneurs, they start doing that and they're like, okay, but let's add a whole bunch of other stuff, and we're going to sell,
mm.
pizza and hot dogs and all this stuff to get more people in. They really stayed focused on chicken salad in the very early stages, and they saw the demand for it. So again, that staying focused, Sarah clearly kept her business focused on that. What problems for women could I solve that had to do with making them look better and feel better in the clothes they were wearing? Um, and
Yeah.
what lane are you in? As the company grows, you have an opportunity to look at it differently. And certainly Spanx has expanded into other kinds of outerwear since then. But again, a long time spent in staying in your lane and almost creating a category for yourself. Spanx reinvented the category of shapewear. Chicken Salad Chick, I think we're actually inventing the category. There's no other restaurant concept that sells chicken salad as their main menu item. So we're excited because we're creating our own category in the restaurant industry.
Well, what an opportunity too. And yeah, staying in your lane and keeping that focus, that is that seems easy. It's so hard. It's so hard in restaurants because you're like, oh, well, if we added this, and probably the best business advice I ever got as a young man was my business partner's uncle. And it was focus, 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 dominate, dominate, dominate. We were like all over the place. Different. It wasn't in restaurants, but it was in a different space. But we were like, oh, if we sold here, sold there. And he's like, no, 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 no. Like, you built this for this audience. Sell it to that audience. Dominate that space. Then you can go
Mhm.
once you've, and then you can kind of expand, which is what Spanx did. But the Chicken Salad Chick. I mean, you've just got so much runway. You said 270
Currently open. Yep.
locations now.
Yep.
Okay,
And
yeah. I mean, you've got massive
so
runway.
19 states for the 270. DC
Okay.
is the most northern on the East Coast side. We opened about 2 months ago our first restaurant in New Mexico. That's kind of our uh, most
Oh,
western footprint in Albuquerque. We've got two open in Colorado, and then actually three more to come that will be opening in Colorado within the next month. With this couple of scheduled openings. So, we've certainly most dominant and present in the Southeast with Georgia and Florida and Alabama, Tennessee, but have really grown a lot in North Carolina, and Texas is actually really booming. We've got quite a number of new store openings in got a lot of stores in Houston and Dallas at this point, but we've moved into San Antonio, expanding there. There'll be four restaurants open in San Antonio area. Expanded West Texas. We got Lubbock opening next week on top of Amarillo that just opened last year, and excited to get into Midland, Odessa with some new folks. So, um,
Well, yeah, I mean, I think of I don't know, I think of chicken salad and I think of it as being sort of a southern dish. Um, but you've expanded out sort of concentrically, it sounds like, because I would imagine it'd be hard to just go like, okay, so you've got what, 75% of your locations ish are
yeah, yeah,
franchised, 25% corporate owned.
yeah.
Does that, will that
That's the plan.
percentage skew as you grow? I mean, are you growing more corporate stores or is it going to be mostly franchises going forward?
It's been kind of on the same path.
Okay.
There's a little bit different approach. I would say, maybe it got a little bit different in the COVID year and the year after COVID. From a corporate company store, we probably were a bit more aggressive coming out of that and opened more quickly. So we are skew a
Okay.
little bit closer to 30% company at this point. The sweet spot is
Okay.
probably 25 to 20 to 25. Um, and we're catching up to that. It was just as things slowed down and construction and all that last year, we've got some of our franchisees who are now on their back on their accelerated path to open. So, but we
Okay.
ultimately want to stay in that 20 something percent company owned with, that 75 to 80% franchise. And that as we grow, that the plan is actually that's how we grow.
To
Keep
keep
that.
that. Why is that? Like, what's the logic behind it? And I'm not questioning logic. I'm trying to understand it. Like, I know Bojangles is like 50-50 or whatever it is. I don't understand how those decisions are made and what's the thinking
Yeah,
behind that.
so I would say so a couple other things, and I know it's kind of goes back to my background in getting to chicken salad chick. So Scott Davini, who's our CEO, joined the company, and basically there's a little bit more of the story, and you may have even listened to How I Built This, which Stacey Brown has a podcast on that as well. Sort of gives her story from the very beginning up through the time when Kevin Brown they were kind of building stores, had started franchising, and Kevin Brown was diagnosed with cancer, and a terminal
Mm,
cancer. So as he was thinking about what's the future for the family, as well as for the company at the time, and they had under 20 stores open at that point, had started franchising only about a year before. They were looking for, what's the future. So Scott actually got introduced to the brand, Scott Davini, and through one of Kevin's dear friends who also became a franchisee, um, and then put a deal together with our first private equity. And they actually had a transaction, which was great for the company, obviously great for the family. And Scott became CEO in 2015 with our first
okay.
private equity firm. And I joined following Scott, and a lot of our leadership team joined then. Scott saw this great brand, this great opportunity, what had been created by the Browns, and to some degree the potential that we have. And so again, I credit him with some of the things I was going to talk about to answer your question in terms of our growth and how we've thought about it, company franchise as well as concentric circle growing. So part of it comes from concentric circles. His experience in the business, he'd been a Wendy's franchisee and a banker before that. Knowing as we were, focused in the South, really thinking about let's not add territories to get too far away from our awareness potential as growing this brand, as well as distribution potential as a small company that serves fresh chicken salad, where we deliver fresh chicken to our restaurants twice a week. That's really critical,
Mm,
that we could actually do that and supply company restaurants that ultimately franchise. So that's been a big part of our strategy, and I think that's been a big amount of success. Is really not jumping to Las Vegas or California, et cetera, really thinking about discipline on that. Then the other is the discipline around company and franchise. Um, with we're certainly a franchise concept. So the great opportunity there is, you bring in people who can actually fulfill their American dream. Every franchise business, while we
Yeah.
have a franchise, we have the idea, we've got the concept, but they're running their own business and they can build value and wealth for themselves as a franchisee. We get the benefit of obviously they're going to go into new markets and bring the torch of the brand, carry the flag in places that we may not be able to develop yet. In addition, they are locally based. So a brand like ours, they actually create community where they are, and that's a really key component of us when we're meeting with and thinking about and interviewing and bringing in franchisees. The community part of our brand is very, very important. So on the flip side, the company certainly staying in and developing company alongside that and having kind of that 20 to 20, 25% franchise kind of as our company as the goal is certainly it's a great business model for us, running our own restaurants and what the value we create as a brand with the sales we have in really strong stores. But also importantly is that we are operating restaurants alongside of our franchisees, and we're not going to, we're going to put in things in place. We're going to test and learn, and anything that we do, we're doing it in more stores than any other franchisee. So we know the positive impact or the negative impact of something put in place.
Mm,
So
yeah.
we can sit,
Okay.
always sit in a room with our great franchisees and like we know we're in it with you. And so there's not something that
Yeah.
we're going to push through that we don't also know the impact that it has down to the store level, financials, team, et cetera. So I think that gives us a great opportunity to be even further partnered with our franchisees to help grow this brand because we're all in it together. So we're all building this
Yeah.
together, and I think it makes us a better franchisor that we're able to actually be there holding hands with our franchisees as we move forward.
Gotcha. Okay. Makes a ton of sense. The I want to talk about since you're in marketing, I want to talk about branding and storytelling. Storytelling is such a big, I think, part of successful marketing. Do you have um, like are there certain approaches or ways that you go about doing that? Have you learned uh, a style of telling stories? Because I mean, it makes sense, right? Tell your story, but how do you scale that type of story, which is awesome when it's like her in her kitchen and then like scaling that up and still having that connection to the consumer where it's not like this is just some big franchise brand, like being able to still have that connection with the customer and have them feel a part of that story seems to me like a really interesting challenge.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's quite a number of things. I certainly kind of what I was saying at the beginning benefited from what was put in place by Kevin and Stacy from a brand and storytelling. So when they started it, and again, she's just naturally that way. I don't, again, it's not like she went into it thinking this is the business model I'm creating, but when they created the original, it's so rich, and that's kind of what I saw even before I came to it. When I got to know the brand and got to meet Stacy in person and Scott and a couple of folks who were here at the time, it was very personal. So the menu that we have, a dozen varieties of chicken salad made from scratch, which again is important. We certainly important message for us. The brilliance that they did, they sat down and they created this menu, and you know, you need names of your flavors. So instead of just saying it's the apples flavor and the buffalo flavor, they actually named the flavors after people. We're a chick brand, and they looked around and they said, there's a lot of women in our lives who have helped us. And so the original flavors, which we continue this day, every flavor has a namesake, which is a person. And so, yes, it's a great flavor profile. There's Buffalo Barkley, who was her best friend, who lived next door, who was the one who tasted all the original recipe before she even figured out what was going to be the original recipe. Quite a number of them. We've have Kick and Kaylin, who's one of our aunts, who's also a franchisee in Atlanta. Julie North, who's Jazzy Julie, who was her college roommate, who also has a couple restaurants in South Georgia and bought Austin Tifton. So again, those personal connections of thinking about the human side, and it was kind of natural from the very beginning. So there was already that to tap into, and I think that's one of the things as we grow as a brand. It's their story, everybody wants to relate to it. So when we have a grand opening, I mean, which is obviously one of the best days in the world, always, whenever you open a restaurant, and the excitement that people have when it's new and you get in a grand opening line and people have either had it or haven't before. And I get in the line and I'm, talking to people and it's like, their name is Nancy. And you know what, by the way, that they like chicken salad with apples, grapes, and pecan. I'm like, I know. Well, that's called Fancy Nancy. So from here on out, it's your flavor. And so they, again, they're like, okay, that's mine. I'm attached to it,
Yeah.
and they're like, okay, yes, it's named after me. And it's amazing how you will see that when restaurants have been open for a while, people actually have those namesakes. If they are named after that flavor, they will tell people it's theirs. So it's really trying to figure out, again, there's things in our brand that do it, but really those, I guess the human connections are there. That's one key element. The other element is really we have a great menu, sell chicken salad, but we do have a very clear idea of a purpose as a brand, and as a company moving forward. And the words are spread joy, enrich lives, and serve others. And for us, that actually goes above and beyond. It's a culture driver: spread joy, enrich lives, and serve others. And that's really what drives us through and through. And it goes into our business in many ways. Certainly, obviously, we want our team members who are serving our guests and thinking about that to sort of bring that. It's a description of like, yeah, we got Southern hospitality, but it's a little bit different way of thinking about Southern hospitality. So we don't just stay in the South, but how, what are we doing for people? And the experience we're creating has more to do than just the chicken salad. It's really, are we spreading joy? And then how are we enriching people's lives when we bring people together? So at a restaurant experience basis, but also thinking about that on a broader level. It's one of the things that's really important to us when we are franchising. And looking for franchise owners kind of goes back to that concentric circles and community. All of our franchise owners, we expect them to be involved in community, and that's been a lot of our success. We look for people who we know will be able to spread joy, enrich lives, and serve others. Certainly, they have to have the financials and all those things to be coming to the restaurant business, but that's really critical. And so, in some ways, some of the storytelling, I guess in many ways, it's like they drank the Kool-Aid and they come in
Yeah.
and they love the chicken salad, they love the culture. And it's really easy for, our franchisees to actually do that in their community because it all makes sense. And so they actually help us, and they're really pivotal on kind of telling the stories in the brand. There's tactics under that. So I know some brands of our size and in the restaurant business, we push out communication. So every restaurant has its own Facebook page. There's a number of ones now that have Instagram pages. We actually do posting on Facebook, and it obviously that kind of social media has changed since COVID. We're actually are posting more and more, and that's a great opportunity for us to tell stories and be in touch with our guests. And we have a team that does that. But at the same time, we actually have all of our franchisees. Every restaurant also is open to do their own posting, and now honestly, it's one of the
Mm.
drivers. It's a business driver for us. That engagement we usually get from local posting, from either owners or managers or something else that's happening on a local page. It even gets higher engagement than our brand post. And that's where people really start to communicate. So it's again, it's a social media has really been a great part of our brand, and telling the story. So anyway, I can go probably on longer than that.
No, listen, well, okay. One of the things you said makes so much sense to me is that the local posts get more engagement than the brand. And that's why I asked that question, because you're you're building this business that has 270 locations. You're going to have a whole lot more. Um, so then it becomes this thing that's this big corporation. But if you have local franchisees and you nailed it with the culture piece, and your value proposition around enriching lives and serving others. So these are folks that are out in the community. They're local. They're building engagement. They're building your brand in a really positive way. And when there's authentic local content with a local customer and a local owner, then all of a sudden you're more like a local business than some big giant corporation right out of Atlanta that has locations everywhere, and that's how you scale that authenticity. It sounds like, which is I've always been fascinated by that. You mentioned something, drinking the Kool-Aid. So, as a marketeer, I'm so interested in the psychology of decision making. I read Influence: The Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini years ago, and he talks about how people are, I mean, they're essentially, programmable, if you want to say that. People want to be a part of something, and so we become part of these like tribes, right? Drinking the Kool-Aid was Jim Jones, and I mean, he literally like had a cult of people that unfortunately were so bought in they drank Kool-Aid and died in Guyana, and it's just like, wow, what you can do if you know how to push people's buttons. But if you're doing this in a positive way by trying to enrich people's lives and serving the community and spreading joy, that's such a positive way to engage and build a following, if you want to call it that, not a cult following, but a following, because we all want to be part of something,
Mhm.
right? Like we want our name to be attached to something. We want to represent brands that we care about. We want to feel like we're a part of something bigger than ourselves. And so when you're able to do that and do that effectively, particularly as if I'm thinking of as a franchisee and I've got this, I've got all the materials I need, I've got the product and everything. My job is to go out and represent this brand to my community and build my local tribe, which then gets into picking franchisees and finding the right franchisees. So you've got somebody up there in DC, you said 8 locations, I think. Are you all typically looking for franchisees that have a track record of success in other brands? I'm seeing a lot of franchisees now that are saying, I'm gonna be 5 locations with this brand, 5 with this one, 8 with that one, because they're not putting all their eggs in one basket. So do you look for that type of franchisee, or somebody that's like, I'm all in on, you know, 8 and then maybe more if I go, like, how do you, or maybe it's both. I'm just curious how y'all vet these franchisees and sort of like what the ideal candidate for that
Yep.
is.
And it's it's a mixture. I would say for sure the number one, as we start looking at people, there isn't one franchisee type for us. And I hope it continues this way. It's probably changed a little bit as we continue to grow and get larger. In a good way, we're probably attracting more of those multi-unit operators who may be adding us as a second or third brand. But I'd still say it comes from the very beginning. They reach out to us because they've heard about the brand. They either know it, they've visited a restaurant somewhere in the southeast, or it's amazing. A lot of people, we have a restaurant in Destin that's a franchise restaurant. It's amazing how many people have discovered chicken salad chicken, that Destin restaurant. I know he says like, I think I should get, I think I should get paid a finder's fee, for that restaurant. But so some of those ones have, that's been a big piece of it. More and more, we actually hear it more, not just in Destin, kind of all over the place now when people discover it. They get into it, they walk into our restaurant, maybe they were looking at franchising with a new concept, they get a feel for it. If anybody that's walked into a chicken salad chick, I'm hoping you see it and you feel it immediately, that there's something different in what we do, obviously. And then you have the food, which is really amazing. And again, I'll talk about that. Can talk about it separately, but the operations is, there's, as a restaurant business, there's some simplicity to it, on our operations. And again, they're interested, but the first piece is they have to be excited about it and demonstrate this, like, we get the brand, we understand what you stand for, what you do. You're open 6 days a week from 10 to 8. But it's a great business opportunity. We have, 1.4 million AUVs, 6 days a week, 10 to 8. So the business proposition is fantastic, but that again,
6 days
yeah,
a
that's a
week.
lot of the culture, is we're closed on Sundays.
Yeah, okay.
And 10 to 8, again, we're heavily a lunch business, but we do expand into the afternoon and dinner day parts, for a variety of reasons. But which again makes a great business. It's great from a manager standpoint because it's not long hours, there's not late nights, that kind of thing. It's So they get the family part of it too in running this business. And our guest base. We definitely have a lot of men in our restaurants. We will, love them to, want them there. We are Chicken Salad Chick. We are a female-driven brand in
Yeah.
general. So, understanding that, we actually have a really good percentage of women franchise owners, but not
Mm.
exclusively. So, that first piece of it, obviously, then there's the financials part that you have to, go through that process. But then when it comes down to our brand, we actually have a lot of folks who come into it. And you asked the question, Devin Chamberlain, who opened the restaurant here in Falls Church on Wednesday. A couple things on that one. She knew the brand from Tallahassee. When I think she might have when she was in college, and she was actually a competitive tennis player, was down in Tallahassee and got to know the brand from that. Loved it, loved the food, loved the environment. Um, Went to grad school, did something else, actually spent 10 years in helping people kind of in the healthcare business, mental health, and being a social worker and a counselor in the DC area. And she was looking to make a change, wanted to get into business, and kind of came back to Chicken Salad Chick. And, for her, it was a great opportunity. The culture part of she's been, really supporting and helping people in her career, said, this is a great new way for me to do something like spread joy and enrich people's lives. So she has no restaurant experience. She does have some backers in her family who have had some really great restaurant experience. But again, that's been sort of how she's gotten to, our first deal with having 8 total. We definitely have other owners who haven't had restaurant experience. They've come out of, everything from teaching or nursing or pharmaceutical sales. But they get the brand, they know how to sell a product, they understand the story. They're going to be local chicks and drive the brand and business on the local level. And then we teach them the restaurant business. And our team gives a lot of support. Our operations team has a lot of support doing that. With that said, we also have a number of other folks who are, very much experienced restaurant people coming into it that have other restaurant businesses as well. So they fit into it because they understand the economics of this business, and often how it will fit and sort of be a complement to the other businesses that they may be in the restaurant business. So it's
Yeah, not having no, listen, not having restaurant experience, I'm sure you have to go because you want your franchisees to be successful, right? You got to go, all right, look, I hear you. You got a servant's heart. You're good at selling pharmaceutical supplies. Let me explain what you're about to get into. Like, because it is such a challenging business. It's an amazing business and it can be so incredibly rewarding. But from the consumer to the employee to 1,000 things that could happen in any day, I always feel like you better be ready to be able to just stay calm in the fire anytime, any day. Freezer goes out, somebody quits mid shift. Like there's so many, and then like every piece of our economy flows through restaurants at some point. So you're you I mean, and y'all know this. I'm like preaching to the choir here, but the your foundation and your culture and the idea of this isn't about like we want to sell great food. It's we want to enrich lives. We want to spread joy. We want to serve. Like if you don't have a servant's heart and you don't like your goal is not to I want to make people happy when they interact with me and my brand, don't do this. Like, just don't do it because it's like even if you say, okay, well the numbers look great. I'm a financial person. I see the numbers, and if I do this and da da da, yeah. You got to be able to like really figure out a way to lead people, your customers and your employees, and it is a daily thing. And 6 days a week's awesome because you're going to need a down day. And I believe that so much, Tom. And I've never owned a restaurant. I thought I wanted to own a restaurant. Been doing this podcast for 10, 12 years now, over 500 episodes. Didn't take me that long to go, okay, I'm not going to own a restaurant, but boy, do I have a lot of respect for people that do. And whether that's you're an independent restaurant or you're a franchisee who's coming in, I mean, you're putting a lot of times, a lot of your life savings on the line. You're doing an SBA loan. You got a lot invested in this. So just get ready. And if you are, it's going to be awesome, but it's also going to like, it's always going to be something, right? I mean, isn't that a fair, like, is that the, I know not in that way, but you must have those kinds of conversations to make people, to ensure they know really what they're getting
Oh,
into.
you hit the nail on the head. Again, Scott, when we have a hospitality day, when prospective franchisees come in and meet with us, we get to know each other. Um, he spends a lot of time like, my job here is to talk, particularly folks who haven't been in the business before. He goes into that, great people. I'm going to talk you out of being in this business,
Yeah, yeah, right.
because here's all the things, again, we're so appreciative that they've gotten that far and that they love the brand. And they're obviously, it takes a lot to get there and to sort of say, I'm willing to do this. And from what you guys have shown us so far and what we've seen, but so it's respectful, but definitely it's like, everything you said, on any, on any given Tuesday, something's happened, your, general manager is decided to do something else, and your assistant manager, her husband just something happened with him and he's not there. And then there's, all these call outs for no shows that because your team members didn't show up. And you got to put that key in the door and you're going to spread some joy and rich lives and serve others on that day. And, it's a long game too in the restaurant business to truly build the value that you're trying to build as a business, as a franchisee. You're going to, whether you're opening one restaurant or whether you're going to open, 5, 6, 10 restaurants with us, that's a long-term game. It's not immediate. Yeah, you may do great in sales and in opening and all that, but it's still like, it goes back to it is every day. Every day there are new guests in your restaurant, and every day there are new team members in your restaurant. So it's every single day we are giving that experience and making food from scratch. So you have to be, it definitely takes you have to have a lot of energy for sure,
You definitely have to have a
and a
lot of
heart.
energy. What about the, tell me, about your, um, your people, right? So you get a franchise or a corporate owned store. Oh wait, did we lose him?
I'm here.
I think we lost. Oh, okay. You can
I
hear
can.
me? Okay, sorry. Um, it must be challenging to find people, employees specifically, in today's world that are that will provide the kind of experience that you want your guests to have. You do a good job of it. I've been in. I will say, I don't eat I don't eat chicken salad. I've never had chicken salad. I don't have anything with mayonnaise. But boy, does my wife love like in my family. So I've been in. Like I've gone in and picked up and ordered and all that kind of stuff. There's one in Charlotte over. It's at Carmel
Yep.
Commons is the
Yep.
shopping center, and great place, great team, great experience, differentiated, happy. I think of happy people when I think of my experience at Chicken Salad Chick, which that's probably music to your
It
ears.
is.
But like that alone is like really hard to do. Is that really effective training? Is that really effective hiring? Is it hire quickly and fire quickly? If like how do you build out a team of people that's just not? I mean, it's hard work. It's good pay, but it's hard to put on that smile every day if you're not the owner. If you get it, if you're the owner, that's your baby. Getting team members like that and doing that consistently, hard to do.
And again, I go back to, I think a lot of it starts with a purpose and a clearly stated purpose, which is
Yeah.
part of the when we hire people in training, all the way from the top, from the franchisee level all the way down through our teams. And people understand that that purpose is really ultimately what drives us. So that's a starting point. Um, from an operational standpoint, the concept is, as restaurants go, it's, again, it goes back into staying in your lane, knowing what we do. We make chicken salad from scratch. So we're a chicken concept. While the product is fresh and we prepare it from fresh chicken all the way through to when we serve it, we're making one product. It's chicken salad. And so some of that ease of operation. There's not, 5 different items or
Mm,
500 different items on a menu that's like really diverse. And a lot of it has to do with we prepare for our busy time period, obviously, is lunch. So everything is prepped in advance of that. So we can serve the guests quickly when it's through our team that's putting sandwiches out in the sandwich line. And then on the flip side, because it comes out quickly, our front of house team members are able to give the guests a great experience. And there's not all kinds of different things coming out at different times. It's cold food, so it does well in the restaurant and it moves easily and quickly, and that makes people happy.
mm,
But also it goes out of the restaurant really well, and you take it home, and it's the same when you get home with our chicken salad as it was when you had it in the restaurant. So there's none of that also, which again makes everybody happier in the experience. So there's a lot about the operations um, in my mind where there's no fryers. There's, again, our team members can wear their chicken salad chick t-shirts, and we're in a lot of schools that have actually colleges, whether they're ACC, SEC, or other universities. We get a lot of team members who go to college. I can go to class in my t-shirt from Chicken Salad Chick because there's no fryers or grills, and that requires a different kind of employee than people who are actually back thinking about we're making chicken salad from scratch and washing grapes and cutting broccoli, and it's a different kind of making food that's fresh is very different than a very process oriented and automated oriented food prep. It's just a very different
yeah.
thing. Your care
Okay.
gets to go into the food in a prep role in our company than businesses that are often way more difficult operationally, whether they're automated or not. It's I think that also just makes people happier. They know what the product is, and and they are able to do it in a way that it's not stressful.
All right, y'all. Check it out. Stick is our sponsor. Connectwithstick.com. This is an incredible text and marketing tool. So check this out. Engage your customers, drive foot traffic, and increase sales at your bar, your restaurant, your store with Stick. Your targeted messages reach your audience instantly, promoting special offers and events. Look, 98% of texts are seen within 3 minutes. So this thing is simple and it's effective and it works. Elevate your marketing strategy and watch your customer base grow with the most direct way to connect with your customers through text. Start today and see results on the very first text. Stick is a better way to connect with your customers and the easiest way to increase your sales. www.connectwithstick.com. And again, that's www.connectwithstick.com. Folks, this is an awesome sponsor. It's an awesome business. We at Schedulefly know them well. We know that the results are there. This is a highly effective tool, and it's run by a business run by great people. Check them out, connectwithstick.com. You've been, so you've had an interesting path and you've had a lot of exposure to different industries. But I get back to like, I think about the original, the Little Caesars and how y'all drove the success through marketing. I think about in your space, this is awesome because you're it, Chicken Salad Chick. I'm just so curious about this. Like, how do brands, you see them come and go, right? Like come and go, meaning that they're a leader and then they're not, and then they're a leader again. And some of that's operations and execution and all that kind of stuff. But it seems to me like marketing is such a big part of that, of just creating some connection to the consumer with your brand. I mean, pizzas, like all the pizzas taste a little different, whatever, but like, if you're not good at marketing, you're probably not going to sell a lot of pizza. And if you really are good at marketing, you probably are.
Mhm.
I'm just talk about that a little bit about how much of a difference marketing can make in creating both awareness but a connection to the consumer. And I'm asking that because I'm trying to learn myself because our biggest challenge at my business is awareness, right? And we're small, and like we're trying to figure out like how do we create more awareness. But I'm trying to learn as much as I can about marketing, and I just think about things like if you pull the right levers and push the right buttons through marketing, to me, that's like gold.
It is, yeah. And there are things that I think about. Again, I don't know if they're if there's success factors or criteria, but one of the to me, one of the things that's important is knowing who your customer is, but knowing who your create it for your most avid fans. Be true to who they are, what
Mm,
they're looking for, you know, give give them the best experience, put them at this. And so in my mind, that's a lot of what I think about, and hopefully that's what a lot of what we're doing and having some success with is we're always wanting to get more awareness and expand and have the right messaging and maybe have things that bring people in. But in my mind, it's no true be true to the core. And if you are true to the core and can deliver messaging or the experience or the food that drives the core, your fans, and satisfy them, they will get more people to help bring them into the brand. And just, really, I always think about that, really kind of stay with who I think our most core is. And, again, in the marketing media world, you're always talking about broader audiences. But when I think of, what her experience, what she's looking for, why she loves chicken salad chick, if I can deliver on that and sort of bring that to life, and I might do it in try to do it in different ways, and tap in to get her excited in a lot of different ways, whether it's a new LTO flavor, whether it's something that funny that we saw on Instagram that we know she'll relate to, knowing this brand or knowing what she's going through. It's like, back to school season and, what's going on. And like, I'm so glad that those kids are out of the house and I finally get to have lunch, with my friends. Are there that really tapping into who they are and kind of what
mm,
and paying attention to listening to what you hear from them, what they love about your brand and or your marketing, and then trying to just dial that up.
hmm.
Um, that's
Yeah,
at the
you
core.
no, that's it. Who is the like? This is your like the perfect customer. What is she like? What does she want? Who is this? I mean, I think of great brands that really get that. Y'all are clearly getting that. I think of like in the like retail, like Patagonia does that really
Mhm.
well. Like just really leaning into who is that core customer who will become not just a customer, not just a fan, but like a loyal, rabid fan who then brings in other customers because they're so bought into what you're doing because they feel like they're a part of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and it's a mixture. It's an art and science, or some of it
Mm,
is um, some of it is monitored, and some of it is just feel. So,
yeah.
and feel is a big part of it, and where it's not structured or disciplined, but the discipline is that you're just listening and you are anticipating the feel. And but there's certain, obviously, in the business world we have certain tools that help us do that. I mean, social media is one of them, and honestly, I was really first introduced to chicken salad chick on Facebook. And again, it has everything to do with so interesting. It's how I discovered Spanx for the first time also. It was sort of similar, but on Chicken Salad Chick on Facebook. Um, my sister and her teenage daughters had been to Florida, to Destin, on spring break, and they were posting on Facebook about their spring break trip with a whole bunch of high school girls in the house. And they mentioned this place, Chicken Salad Chick, and they posted a, a picture of their cup that they were drinking from every single day of that beach vacation. They had a different picture of them with their Chicken Salad Chick cups, putting it toward the camera of who was taking it. Like, they were so excited they discovered this place. And I was like, wow, that's
Mm,
interesting. And then seeing that, then I went on and started moving around Facebook, and I saw, like, wait, there's all different people all over the South that are like putting up their cups for whatever reason. And it wasn't like it was a promotion, just people were very excited about it. They felt that sense of discovery. Again, and that's what, you want to tap into those, is really helping people. We want to drive as much awareness, certainly, but it's those moments of how do you connect to those people who discover it and are willing to put it out there once they've discovered it? You know, it's interesting. It's like part of me wants to stay like a niche brand because when, people are so excited to say, oh, I know this special place called Chicken Salad Chicken, it's a little bit of a dichotomy. The business side of me is also like
Mm,
270 restaurants, 19 states. We certainly have a big path. Again, in the future, 500, 800,000 restaurants. I do think there's capacity in the US, and then to have that many chicken salad chicks. But, there's also some beauty of being still like getting discovered. And so we're still a lot of
mhm.
times trying to think through that of like, I love when people think it's theirs and they don't know that we're moving to be a national chain. They thought it was just in their town, and they're so
Yeah.
excited to bring those people in. So, we love to reward those people in whatever way it is. It might be just, rewarding them by commenting on what they've posted and thanking them in some fun way on a Facebook or Instagram post, or it might be more direct if we get to know them, doing something special for them. Certainly, obviously, if they're in our loyalty program, it makes it easier for us to reward them in a more tangible way. So, but again, reward those people who are excited to be the ones who tell people, curate it, and tell people about us.
Are there other brands that you admire, learn from, follow?
Well, it's interesting. I was going to talk about so that the Spanx part. When I first got there, this is many years ago. Sarah had moved the business out of the townhouse. They were in the first big corporate office space, if you will, with a small number of people when I was there, and but it was still in the earlier stages. Um, I got to know it kind of the same way, like Chicken Salad Chick, from my sister's daughters posting. My wife and her friends, we were, at I don't know, parents' parties or whatever, and they were talking about this thing, and they were talking about what they were wearing under their clothes, and they were talking about this thing Spanx, and it's making me look better, and it's about like wow, they're at a parents' night, they're talking about their underwear. What's going on here? That was just surprising, but they were fans, and like they were like had caught it and got it. And again, it was like they were excited to talk about it because they were sharing with whoever knew about it, was sharing their story of like, oh my gosh, you've got to go to Neiman's or go to Saks or go to Macy's. You've got to try this. I'm telling you, it's going to make you look so much
Mm,
better in your clothes and you're going to feel great. And that was the message that Sarah was building from the beginning. But that was people in a parents' night, moms talking about it that I overheard. I was like, yeah, they're right here in Atlanta. I've heard her story a little bit, and I think she had already been on the reality show with Richard Branson by then. I was like, you know what, that what a great brand, and so it was excited to get involved with it then. So I don't know if I answered your question exactly. From
no, I mean, I'm curious. Like, if you are there other brands, whether it's Chick-fil-A or Domino's or whatever, that you follow, learn from, think they're doing a great job, try to you know draw
Yeah,
from,
yeah.
or are you just locked in and focused on what you are doing?
I there is a lot of focus on that, but certainly. Um, Different brands at different times. Very much, you know, Chick-fil-A is had phenomenal success over quite a number of years. Um, as they for a long time as they were going, that very very focused on a service model and hospitality model, and then underneath that, as they grew, there's a lot of technology. I mean, as we all know now, and since the last like really 4 years or so, it seems even more, they've leaned so much further into technology as it relates to drive-through business. And
Mm,
and clearly have grown massive, and are basically one of the largest US QSR brands. So and it's been done over a number of years, but it still goes back to that hospitality is there, which is interesting because there's like now the experience the guest has is like it's about being as fast as possible. And yes, they do come out to you with an iPad, so there's a level of hospitality that made it convenient. They do smart things. Um, People see them as super fast in their drive-through. They're very busy.
mm,
Sometimes they're not as quick as a lot of other restaurants, but they've been very smart about staging you through that drive-through experience. So you don't realize, you come out of it and you're like, oh, they said my pleasure, and like, wow, that was Chick-fil-A's fast. And but actually you might have been in that drive-through line for 8 minutes, 5 minutes, and
Hmm.
it's not a 2 minute drive-through situation, but they greet you, you order, they move you along, and they do a great job. And that, again, obviously there's more technology that they've been focusing on, but thinking about that part of it. So I find that interesting. Certainly as they've grown, they've stayed true to you know it hasn't hurt them from growing, being open 6 days a week. Um,
Sure.
Across the country, in California, in non-traditional models, in airports and retail and other places as well. It has still served their model. Obviously, they have a different business model than we do from a franchise standpoint. Um, in other categories, um, again, I would say um, I I'm amazed. One brand that we follow, and actually we try to get real estate in. If I can get next to a Home Goods, I'm golden. We're golden.
Really?
I think Home Goods is a brand that I like a lot of things that they've done. They've cultivated an amazing customer, and in a time period when Wayfair and Amazon and online shopping for home and retail goods. Obviously, we've seen a lot of big businesses go out of business. I'm very impressed with what Home Goods has been able to create, on the merchandising they have, the clarity, where their real estate development, which to me has helped their brand. Um, their their target market knows when new merchandise arrives, and so as do we. When I have a chicken salad chick next to Home Goods, that'll be a good sales day, because that's in many of them. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are often when the merchandise, and I see the difference in our business on Tuesdays and Wednesdays when we're next to Home Goods. Um, they've done a great job of cultivating those guests. They do a lot with loyalty. I think, loyalty is a big part of retail business, and restaurant business now. So kind of looking at those brands that have, Starbucks certainly in the loyalty space has done a phenomenal job, in loyalty, very much more sophisticated, way different than what our goals are and what we're going to accomplish in loyalty. But they've done again, phenomenal job on that, which is the variety of things that they offer, and the knowledge base, the data that they get behind to motivate their guests and segment and all of that. I think has been really impressive.
Home Goods. So you're okay. So you're in a do you and when you have a franchisee, one in DC, whatever, you got 8 locations. Do y'all help them find the real estate? Is that done in house, or they like? How do you go find the right location?
Yeah, so we partner with them, work with them. So ultimately, they're going to drive it in their market. We have a head of real estate development, Terry, who's been McKee, who's been with the brand. I think was the first person that Scott hired for the leadership team when he joined. Um, and again, Terry and his team do help them kind of go into the process, particularly when we have franchisees who are new. They haven't been in the restaurant business at all. So there's a lot of step by step, here's what to look for. you know a lot of experience base that Terry and his team have, clearly helping them figure out, hiring a broker is critical on real estate development. Getting a broker who's really going to know what's in the market. You basically have to get with somebody who's going to know what's coming up before it does, or what's going to be developed, a year, 2 years from now. When you see something's available, it's usually taken. So, um,
Yeah, right.
so again, we do spend a lot of our team spends a lot of time with helping them through that process. Ultimately, they are the ones creating the real estate, whether it's a leased space that they're doing or if they're buying land to build from the ground up. But our traditional model has been leased space. Um, it works really, really well. We do have some folks who, given where they are in their development in Chicken Salad Chick, or where they may live and have opportunities, that decide to buy the land and build from the ground up, maybe for visibility. But our core concept is really in inline shopping centers, and so our team will work with folks to kind of go through that process step by step.
What? Tell me your real estate person's name again.
Terry McKee.
Okay, Terry. I'd love to introduce Terry to my buddy Trey Morgan. He's got the Morgan companies. They're here in Charlotte, but he's been super successful kind of all throughout the Southeast. He'll say like SEC country.
Hmm.
He does a lot of these, like he just did one that has home. He does a lot of these big centers where you've got these specific brands like Home Goods, or he does Publix anchored centers kind of all throughout the Southeast. Terry may already know Trey, but if not, I'd love to get them connected. He's like top shelf, great at what he does a lot of those types of projects where y'all would be, I would imagine, a great fit.
Awesome. Well, Terry is salt of the earth. He's been in the real estate business for a long time, helping companies develop and at big brands, everything from um, AutoZone, Petco. He was actually with Pure One for a number of years at one point. And it's so funny. I think he spent a lot of time at AutoZone, and he tells the story, which um, Chicken Salad Chick, when he first came to the brand, I think it was one of our first grand openings. That it was early on when he was here and I was here. It was a store we opened in Warner Robins, Georgia, and he came out to the grand opening. Was there that day and met a guest, and she said, "Oh, what do you do? Are you the manager of the restaurant?" He said, "Well, no, I'm actually the guy that helps get the real estate, and I helped find this franchisee, find this location, and brought you to Warner Robins." And the lady put down her bag and put her hands around him and hugged him. And he was like, "Whoa!" He's like, I've never been hugged by an AutoZone customer for bringing a new store to them." So he said, "This brand is different."
That's awesome. I love that. I love that. So okay, I will wrap this up. I did notice also you went to Princeton. Are you from Atlanta?
I'm from New Orleans originally.
From New Orleans originally. Okay. Went to school up in Princeton, but came back down. So I was going to say, because you don't sound like you're from up north, so you've either adapted an accent, or now it makes a lot of sense. So you're a Southern dude. Okay, I got you. Do you just do you read? Or what do you do outside of business for fun? Just out of
Yeah, yeah.
curiosity.
Well, I'm a dad. I have two college daughters. So, spent a lot of time with them, which again is certainly fantastic on a personal level. Also, they help keep me in touch with, again, I think an important part, which is something that I like looking at as we continue to go, stay in touch with pop culture and trends
Yep.
that are going on. I mean, there's certainly the folks who help keep me in tune with the latest gadgets that I need to be aware of and know how to work.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and so a lot of time, there's great kids. They played a lot of sports through high school and travel and all that. They were soccer players. One is currently playing in college. So that was a lot of my time over the last couple of years, in addition to getting this chicken salad thing going. Um, and in terms of reading, again, I do get most of my news and a lot of my reading on my phone, just because of the convenience when you're traveling. So just lots of articles, everything from business and keeping up with really current events and pop culture. I'm a big pop culture person.
Pop. I was wondering if it was that, like, if you follow pop culture, if you read, I don't know, like marketing books or things like that. Like, but really, you've got to stay connected with the consumer and the guest, and that's so through your daughters and through pop culture. I mean, that's really a huge part of what you all have to do to continue to build that
Yeah,
brand,
yeah,
right?
and again, it's so much. I mean, I have a wonderful team in marketing, and young folks, young women and men. But on our social media team, again, they're very attuned, and great thing is I got on my team I have some Swifties. We've had fun on in social media. We've done some things when Taylor was dropping her new albums and songs, and it's they do all kinds of creative things that are tapping into coming up with some fun way, whether it's like something that they do as a contest of voting on one thing or another that comes out of pop culture, and our followers engage with that great and love that we're having that kind of conversation because they're into it too. They're moms and daughters. This Taylor Swift thing, it's moms and daughters who are Taylor Swift fans. Especially last year, we did a lot.
Mm,
I mean, again, we weren't trying to make it be that, but it was natural. Um, So when we are able to tap into those things, and then a lot of times the guests do it for us. So they'll post something that then we get to repost because it was just terrific, and people get excited about that. In terms of reading, I love historical fiction. And so I look at that's a lot of my reading, a lot of when at this point, I've gone through different stages. We didn't talk about it. I was in reality television for quite a few years.
Yeah.
So I've spent a lot of time watching, and been involved in reality television. Currently, I'm a bit more focused on, scripted dramas and, more historical scripted dramas, kind of what floats my boat. Often. So, those are things. You know, um, I was a competitive runner, so I'm not competing anymore. But I still get out there and try to have that keep going a little bit.
Distance?
I was a distance runner.
Yeah. Well, I know Sarah's husband,
Oh yeah.
Sarah Blakely's husband, Jesse, does these. I have a buddy that's gone and started doing these things that they go somewhere out west and they climb the equivalent of Mount Everest. You know about this? Like you climb basically like all day and night, and you go to a ski resort
Uh,
essentially, and you climb up to the top and you ride a chairlift down. And you climb up to the top, ride a chairlift down. You keep do that till you've done 29,000 or whatever it is feet. And I know he was, he's an
I
interesting
do.
guy. Let's say
I
to
follow.
follow.
I follow Jesse and Sarah on Instagram, so I've seen those. Him. I've seen those things. So I'm aware of it from that primarily.
Golly, yeah, that's why he's an interesting character too. Well,
My running
listen,
is nothing like that at this point.
yeah, no, I mean that's like
The
extreme stuff.
cleats
That's
and
extreme
all that's
stuff.
been put up. It's now it's more than a speed walk. It's a jog.
Well, that's good. And yeah, I'm sure, just having college age daughters keeps you engaged and young. And man, I've learned so much and I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. And this is just like I mean, I'd have 1,000 other questions I'd like to ask you, but I want to respect your time. I appreciate but the firm, your PR firm
Yeah.
that got us connected.
Fish
Um,
consulting.
one-
Fish consulting.
yeah, good for them. They do a great
They do.
job.
They've been
Yeah.
working. I've been working
Uh,
with them for 8 years. They, have helped us, continue to grow this awareness in this brand as well, both on the consumer side and business side.
Yeah, it seems like a really, really well run and good, effective business. So I'm glad we got in touch. And look, I'm a fan of the brand. Everybody I know is especially all the ladies in my life are big fans of the food, and the experience. And I
When I get to be
appreciate
there
this.
with either from me or a guy named Jim Thompson, who's our COO, head of operations. One of we will if you get around us, you might be eating some chicken salad. I don't know. We might be able to convince you.
You might. I'm like this lifelong fear of mayonnaise, which is like ridiculous, but then it's like I'm 50 now, so but I'm sure I would actually love it, to be quite honest with
Exactly.
you. Like it's one of those silly things I've always been like, I'm not touching it because it has mayonnaise, which is kind of stupid because there's a lot of things I didn't eat as a kid that I eat
You just
now.
got to try the
Well,
buffalo.
look,
Just try the buffalo. I'd say try the buffalo wing flavor. That's a good one to try because it's buffalo.
I'll do that. I'll try the buffalo
If
wing
you like
flavor
buffalo,
and
if you like buffalo wings, so
well, I'll go with my daughter, and because she's the social media person, and she can take a picture, and we'll
yeah.
post that because this is how I roll. So I'm like really disconnected. So well, thank you so much for the time. Thank you for this, just sharing and offering so much great advice and wisdom. I really appreciate it. If you are in Charlotte or happen to be here, look me up.
I would love
We can
to.
have one of those
Yeah,
sandwiches
yeah.
together. Yeah, for sure.
And
Next
yeah,
time
I
you're here.
definitely want to make Liz happy too. So,
That's
well, I'll
right.
get with Fish and figure out
Absolutely.
what we can do. Definitely got to make her happy.
Well, listen, Liz, how many weeks along are you, Liz? She's 29 weeks along here, so she's got a big next month
Oh,
ahead. First baby, so but that
awesome.
baby's probably craving some of that chicken
Right.
salad. So
I do have it's actually a fun story related to that, and then I'll let you go. But The restaurant we opened on Wednesday. I don't know if maybe tell me if I've already told the story, but Devin, getting ready, she was on the same track for opening a restaurant. She also was on track to be having her first baby sometime soon. And so that I mean, delays in opening and, getting power turned on and honestly getting permits finally done in the DC area, which we knew was going to be challenging, but I think they thought it might not be as challenging. These things got delayed. So she was full on like 36 weeks pregnant going into this grand opening. And we had her set up for grand opening day on Wednesday. She was going to do actually a TV appearance on the Fox station was coming over on Tuesday, doing an interview with her for 2 segments and kind of ready to go. And then on Tuesday morning, I got a text from her saying, you know what? I went into labor last night at 2 o'clock. I'm not going to be there. Can somebody else handle the TV segment? And also somebody, and I was like, well, yeah, again, for better or for worse, yes, I'll jump on a plane earlier than I was going to come. I got that covered for you. I had a marketing person who was already doing a different TV segment at conflicting time for her in DC at a station. So we got you covered, but there she was. She missed her grand opening. She had her first baby on the day that she was opening the restaurant. So, she posted, again, but the thing though is it kind of goes back to when we were talking about, local owners and such, why it's just such a bright spot. Certainly it's new for me because it's this week, but um, that line of people that lined up to get into our restaurant on opening day. And we do a special free giveaway chicken salad for a year, free for a year. So we always have 100 people in line to come in that banging the door down to get in. The majority of them knew that she was pregnant, having a baby, and like they were celebrating as much as we were that she had, delivered her baby at the same time she was opening a restaurant because they knew her. And they weren't her friends, but they had somehow gotten to know her through Instagram or locally. She had visited a lot of businesses and stuff like that. Even in a market like, Falls Church, Virginia is a big market and it's very
Yeah.
dense and diverse, but she did a great job at least in doing that. But they were, again, so hopefully she, baby number 2, maybe she'll plan it where her second restaurant, she won't have the baby at the same time. So
But isn't that the perfect story? Listen, that's it right there. You're going to have your baby the day you're open. It's like, that's the thing. It's like, I'm so glad that you all go, look, we're going to try to talk you out of this. Cause you say that facetiously, but it's like, you got to be ready for like that, like stuff like that. And in a restaurant that, there's cascading things. So I have to ask you one last thing. I'd be totally remiss if I didn't remember this. You're in Atlanta. Do you know the folks at the Giving Kitchen?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. I love,
Yeah.
and I mean
Yeah.
love the Giving
Yeah.
Kitchen. Love what
No,
they're
it's a great,
doing.
it's a great cause. No, I mean, Sheila, she's that's who I know. And then actually, Libby, who's in Atlanta, Libby Massey, used to, oh, she has a married name that I'm forgetting, of course. She actually worked at the Chick, was in the marketing team, a number of years ago.
Oh,
She was our
really?
very first field marketing manager. Quite a number of guys on my team, but she's actually supporting them now too here in Atlanta.
Good, good. Shout out to Giving Kitchen. Love y'all. Jen Heidinger Kendrick is one of the
Oh yeah.
nicest, kindest
Oh
people
yeah.
I've
I've,
ever
I've
met
seen
in
her
my
speak.
entire
So
life.
she was
Oh,
awesome.
yeah, for sure. Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring them up because I love what they do so much. So, well, listen, we'll let you roll. We'll have this. We'll send you and your PR company the audio, the video, probably be a couple weeks.
Awesome.
And let me know if you're coming up this
All
way.
right.
I'll meet you over at Carmel Commons next time I'm heading down to Atlanta. I'll give you a shout. But thank you so much for the
Yeah, sure.
time and for
Thanks. Thanks
sharing
for
so
the
much today.
interest too. Appreciate it. Great
Yeah,
to get to meet you.
absolutely.
It was fun. I really, really nice to thank, again, I talked about myself. We'll see. So
Well, you talked about your great brand, and you did a great job with it. It's a very compelling story. So
thank
thank you
you.
so
All
much.
right. See you, Will.
See ya.